Hello and welcome back to the channel. We are here in Frankfurt at the launch of the Kia EV9, the Korean manufacturer's biggest, boldest and perhaps most technologically advanced EV yet.
Brought to you by AA Approved Servicing. Book yours at aa.ie/servicing.
Starting off at the front, and the Kia badge made only from aluminium. It's a lovely effect, but overall the front, we can see the size and the bulk of the car here. We'll touch on aerodynamics as we go along. We can see the LED lights here. They run all the way from the bonnet, just off on the side there, down front and then across. Now the layout, what you're seeing here, is slightly different depending on what spec you go for and what markets. So for example, in the European Union, crash tests will dictate that this paneling just here, the lights don't come across. A few other things to point out. Now what we have here today is the GT line spec, and we'll see these two little panels there. That's actually two LiDAR sensors. Now in the Irish market, we're not going to have these applied because European regulations in general don't allow them. We might touch on that later as we talk about tech inside. Now it's a little bit busy at the front here, but that's for a reason. One is that the LiDAR is there, but we've got active air vents down the front and this little splitter, and that's all about aerodynamics. As are this little feature just here, which channels air around the side towards the wheel arches, cutting down on turbulence and helping with aerodynamics and range in what is a very, very big, heavy and possibly thirsty car. So you can see just how high the bonnet breaks here. It's almost up at my hip line compared to something like, for example, a Tesla Model 3, which will actually break at my knee line all the way down here. So this car has a drag coefficient of 0.28. Now that is really, really good. But let's not forget that aerodynamics is not just about drag coefficient, it's also about the frontal area of this car. So overall, we're going to be using a good bit of energy. And as we move around the side now, we start to get a better picture for just how big this thing is. Nearly 2 meters wide at the front, 5.01 meters long, and look at the wheelbase all the way from the front to the back, just over 3 meters. So it's really, really big. For a bit of context, I am 6'2", so this roof line here goes up to 1.75 meters. A really, really big car, and it's on that EGMP platform, which affords us lots of space inside, as we're going to see shortly. As we move around the back, it's still quite an obviously bulky car. So a few things to point out. One is that these fantastic lights here, these are based on constellations. Now, what I do like about it is that they've dropped the reg plate down here, and it just leaves this such a simple form here. Huge big panel that runs across the back, just that simple Kia badging. Really, really effective. Now we've got a little bit of a spoiler there and a camera underneath. Also, you might be thinking it doesn't have a rear wiper like many cars, but you'd be wrong. It is there. It's just tucked up underneath, helping with aerodynamics. A little bit of a shark fin aerial at the top. And another thing to notice is that this car, although it does look so blocky and angular, it does curve around a little bit. As we come around here, we see the shoulder line. It edges closer towards the back. Even the roof slopes gently towards the back and is slightly concave, all helping with aerodynamics. But I think it's time now to have a look inside. We have an electric tailgate, which is a great feature to have, and there's such fantastic space in here. Now we've got the all-wheel drive version today, so we've got that rear mounted motor and the front one as well. But let's look at what we have here. So 333 litres of space, but that's because we've got 3 rows inside. If you want to fold these seats down, all of a sudden we're moving out to about 750 litres, and this is a flat floor across the bottom here, so really practical as you want to slide parcels in and out. It's great for sitting down as well if you want to watch the kids' football match out the back of the car. Bit of protection from the rain there also. So huge space in the back here, as you would expect from this car. It's a very practical and usable space as well. So we've got a lot of little tie hooks here for bags, or if you want to tie on your coat or whatever it is. We've got a 12 volt 180 watt socket there, a couple of releases for the back seats, and over here you'll notice this little feature as well. So this is extra power for when you want it. So you can plug in tools, whatever you want, just there. That extra plug socket for a 3-pin in our market is obviously different where we are here in Germany. Great little feature to have. Not all the space is in the back and the boot, and I want to show you this. So there's a little button here. We tap that twice, 1, 2, and we've heard the bonnet opening up. So let's go around and have a look, because this does have what's called a frunk, or a fruit, a front trunk, a front boot, call it what you will. Let's open it up and have a look inside. Now we've got the all-wheel drive variant, meaning that there's a motor on the front as well. So space in here is 52 litres. Go for the rear wheel drive one and then you're at to 90 litres of space, and this is a really handy place. You could put your charging cables in there. Me personally, that's where I put my curry on a Friday night so it doesn't smell up the inside of the car. And another thing that I want to show you is what we've got stored away in here. This is a little adapter. Let's move along the side just here and we'll open this up. So this is where we charge up the EV9. Now this is built on that 800 volt architecture that we see with the EGMP platform. So the EV6 being the precedent one that we've seen already. And once again, the charging is absolutely fantastic. So we're just over 230, nearly 240 kilowatts in there. Now the problem in Ireland is we don't have that many chargers that can deliver that power, but the car is ready for it. And you're looking at 15 minutes on a charge and you're putting a couple of 100 kilometers in. This thing is absolutely fantastic. But you've noticed I have this in my hand, and this is a little adapter. So with cars, typically they've just been boxes on wheels that get you from A to B. You turn up at the petrol station, or you put in petrol or diesel, or you charge up your car. This is a mobile battery, 99.8 kilowatt hours of capacity. And we can actually plug in just there, opens up at the bottom, and you can put your 3-pin plugs in there, and that goes up to 3.6 kilowatts. And for a bit of context, that's nearly double what your kettle is drawing on full power. So you could power a bouncing castle, maybe a little mobile oven. You could charge another car. There's so much you can do with it. And for me, this is really, really important. One, because you can power tools, but eventually we're going to move towards vehicle to grid, vehicle to home technology, where we're powering our houses off the batteries. Maybe you've got solar on the roof, you've charged up your car during the day, take it back out at night time. Hugely beneficial feature. Range is hugely important when we're talking about our EVs. In fact, it's the first question that I always get asked, what's the range? Well, I've got a couple of different variations on that. So WLTP range for this goes up to 541 kilometers. Now, of course, in the real world, we can expect that to be a little bit less because WLTP is generally optimistic, but it's still going to be a solid 400 kilometer car. Now, if you go for the all-wheel drive version that we have here today, range, that WLTP figure that we spoke about, is dropping down to just under 500 kilometers. But as we said, it'll be a solid 350 to 400 kilometer car anyway. But that's also affected by a few different factors, and one is the wheels. So today we're on the 21-inch rims. Now they have these little plastic inserts in there, so it helps with aerodynamics and aero efficiency as well, but these are either 19, 20 or 21. Another thing that helps with aerodynamics is these mirrors, but they're not actually mirrors. So these are camera system, and we'll see those in better detail when we're inside. But when we're talking about range, the main thing, and we have a look down under here, is within that 3-meter wheelbase, we've got a gigantic battery pack stuffed underneath there. It's a completely flat floor, and it's a 99.8 kilowatt hour battery, and that's usable. So the actual battery is bigger, it's well over 100 kilowatt hours, but 99.8 is usable. I remember when we first saw the EV9 in concept form, and it was that fascinating, that gorgeous blue color, and thankfully I'm delighted to see that they've kept it. It's going into production. So it's the ocean blue color. The version that we have here today is in that matte effect. And if I was buying this car, this is the one I'd go for. But we obviously have a lot more selection. So there's 5 glossy colors that we can choose from. And then depending on the spec you go for, there's also a lovely ivory silver as well. So great selection. Unfortunately, we don't have pricing yet. We've been poking and prodding them here in Frankfurt, and even the Irish guys as well, just trying to find out what this will cost, and they will not tell us. Now, we're expected to get the car in the latter part of this year, maybe into November, with customer delivery starting off in early next year, so hopefully January or even February. Now, what are we going to pay for it? We don't exactly know because they won't tell us. We definitely know that it's going to be priced above the Kia EV6, the GT line, so we're looking at well north of 60,000 euros, of course. But they're talking about competing against more premium brands, so the likes of the Volvo EX90, the BMW iX1, Audi Q8 e-tron, and that Volvo, for example, starts off at in and around 100,000 euros. So what are we going to be seeing? Something in around 80? Who knows? Let us know your guess in the comments below, and of course we will let you know as soon as we find out. on the inside now, and you can see why they're talking about competing with some of the more premium brands, because it's a lovely feel in here. Another thing to note about it is that they really are working towards sustainability. Now let's forget about the fact for a moment that this is a big SUV weighing well over 2 tons, but they are doing their best with the materials in here. The carpets, for example, all made from recycled PET plastics. They're using BTX-free inks to colour the door panels, across the dash. Everywhere you look, they're really going for more sustainable materials, recycling, using bio products as much as they can. Inside here, there's a lot going on, but I have to say, having come from the EV6 in the past, driven that they've kept all of the strengths of those cars and enhanced them a little bit. So what we'll start off talking with is the displays at the back here. Now we've got a 12.3 inch screen here for the driver. That's displaying our battery percentage, our range, things like that. There's another 12.3 inch screen over here. This is the infotainment screen, where we're going to get a lot more information, the settings, radio, things like that. But a great addition, they've slotted in here, in between those two, is a 5.1 inch screen. And this is for all the HVAC controls, so your climate control, demisters, air conditioning, and so on. Now one thing to note is it's slightly cut off by the angle as I'm holding the steering wheel just here. But the designers did say that they've kept the crucial functions just on the outer part of that, so you've always got sight on those. But you know what? You move your head a couple of inches to the left or right and you can see it quite easily. But they've kept a number of buttons as well, so if we want to adjust our temperature or the strength of the fan, we can easily do that down here. We've also got some haptic style buttons here that control, so we can go back to home if we want to click on our map. Search, you can go straight to media. There's the star, where you can have a certain shortcut depending on how you want to set it up for yourself. Plenty of buttons on the steering wheel here, and it's all the traditional stuff. We won't go through it, but your voice activation, your cruise control, things like that. And I'm also delighted to see that they've kept the flappy paddles at the back. For me, regen braking is one of the great strengths of an electric vehicle, and being able to adjust those depending on your own driving style, for me, is a great feature, and I'm delighted that they've kept it. And another thing that you'll notice is that there's not much going on in the center console here. It's really used for practical things. So we've got a little sensor here where I just put my finger over it. That knows then to set up the car from my profile. Plenty of storage, a couple little buttons there for parking the cameras. But the gear selector, as we would have known it in the past, is here on just behind the steering wheel. So that's for park, neutral, reverse, and so on. But overall, the sense in here is that this is a big vehicle. There's loads of space in it. I'm sitting high up and there's plenty of light flooding in from the 2 separate sunroofs in the car that are all adjustable, and we can open up there to let more light in or a little bit of cool air. A great feature in the EV9 is the seats. They are quite comfortable, I have to say. I'm very impressed with them. Great padding on the seats. That kind of biomaterial, the bioplastics that they've used, vegan leather, is very, very comfortable, nice to the touch. And even nice little wings just here on the side of the seat, so you do feel quite comfortable. But it goes far beyond that, of course, because these are heated and ventilated. And that comes as standard for both the first row and the second row in the back. So really comfortable. Electrically adjustable here. I've got lumbar support. You really can do a huge amount with it. Very, very comfortable. And of course you can recline for those nice little rests when you're charging or you're just waiting for someone who's in the shops or something like that. Great setup. Technology is moving on so quickly, and Kia are doing their best to keep up. And one of the ways that they're doing that is the door mirrors, but they're not mirrors, they're actually cameras. And it's a combination of infrared and visual as well. So you get really good visibility in bad weather and nighttime. But the display comes up just inside on the door here. And it's a fairly intuitive place to look. So as you would normally look over at the wing mirror, right there is the screen. And you can see the quality. So as you're looking at the mirror there, I can come around just here and we can say hello. And the quality is pretty good. Space in the EV9 is obviously very important. Now this car is 5.01 meters long, so we should have good space inside thanks to that and the dedicated EV architecture. So completely flat floor across the whole car at the back as well. Now I have this car set up for me. For a bit of context, I'm 6'2", so about 1.88 meters or thereabouts. This feels comfortable. We've got plenty of adjustment electrically for rake and reach on the steering wheel. And it really does feel spacious in here, especially with the light coming down from the sunroof. But let's see what it's like in the back now for our passengers. in the back here now, and there's just loads of space for me. And just a reminder, I'm 6'2" and I've still got this much knee space on my head there. Plenty as well, so it feels really open and airy thanks to the lots of light coming in from the sunroof. Now there's great adjustability here as well, and one of the little party pieces, apart from sliding this forward and back depending on what I need, or even swiveling the chair, reclining it, I pull this lever here. I could swivel towards you around that way, but also swivel around and face the back passengers. Put my feet up, just have a lot more space if you've got a little bit of a weight or you're charging. It's great to have this. Now, the only thing I would say is that with 4 adults, you're not going to have them facing each other. So I could potentially slide back a little bit more, but there's no way that anything more than children really are going to fit in here if you want 4 people to face each other. Probably not going to happen, but it's a great little feature. Why not have it? The EV9 comes as either a 6 or a 7-seater. The version that we have here today is the GT line, but it's the 6-seat version. Now, if you do want those extra back seats, plenty of space there. A little button on the chair and that will fold forward and then you can climb in. And here we are in the back. This is set up for me, as I said, now as a person who's 6'2", I've still got plenty of headspace. Got little 2 cup holders, I've got a USB-C charger just here. So yeah, it feels quite nice and open in here. Close that up and away you go. The Kia vehicles are increasingly more connected, and that's great to see them moving with the technology. One of those is OTA, or over-the-air updates. This is a great feature. So sometimes with the software in the car, there's a few little bugs, a few little fixes that you need, or maybe they can enhance it. And this car can just update itself over the air like you would with your phone. And while I'm talking about my phone, you don't necessarily need the key anymore. It's a little feature that will be rolled out. So your phone becomes the key then. So you just walk up to the car, it knows that you're there, open up the door, in you go, and drive away. Hope you enjoyed today's video on the first look at this Kia EV9. Now, it's a really impressive vehicle in terms of the technology, the space inside. It's absolutely gigantic. Really, really good range from that huge battery with excellent charging capabilities as well. Now, it's a really, really big vehicle. If you're looking for one of those massive SUV, high up commanding styles, then this should probably be on your shortlist. And the fact that you can get it in a 7-seater means that it's going to compete really, really well in the Irish market. We cannot wait to get our hands on it for a full test, and we'll bring you that video as soon as we can.